The signal came at 3 in the morning, ship time. Commander Danny Cole was sleeping in his quarters when the alarm pulled him awake. He sat up in his bed, rubbed his eyes, and looked at the screen on his wall. The words were simple but urgent. Unknown transmission. Source unknown. Priority 1. Danny got dressed quickly and walked to the bridge of his ship, the Horizon. The vessel was not a warship. It was built for exploration, for finding new worlds and new life. Danny had been in space for 12 years, and he had seen many strange things. But he had never received a signal like this one. His communications officer, a young woman named Beth Morris, was already working at her station. She looked up when Danny entered. Her face was pale. "What do we have?" Danny asked. Beth played the transmission. It was full of static and noise, but Danny could hear a voice underneath. The voice was female. She was speaking in a language he did not know, but the ship's computer was translating in real time. "Please help us. The artifact has awakened. We cannot stop it. Everyone is dead. I am the last one. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help." The message repeated 3 times. Then it stopped. Danny stood very still. He looked at the star map on the main screen. The signal had come from a small moon in the Vega system. It was uncharted territory. No human ship had ever gone there. "How old is this transmission?" Danny asked. 6 hours, Beth said. "The signal is weak. Whoever sent it might not be alive anymore." Danny thought about this. He thought about the fear in that voice. He thought about someone alone on a strange moon, waiting for help that might never come. "Set a course," he said. "Maximum speed." The Horizon jumped to faster than light travel. The stars outside the windows became long lines of light. Danny watched them and wondered what he would find when he arrived. 4 hours later, the ship came out of light speed above a gray moon. The surface was covered with rocks and dust. There were no cities, no lights, no signs of life. But the scanner found something strange. There was a structure on the surface. It was old, very old. And there was one life sign inside. Danny assembled a team. He took Laura Simmons, his chief engineer. She was a tall woman with short brown hair and hands that could fix anything. He also took Kevin Park, a scientist who studied ancient alien civilizations. Kevin was younger than the others, but he was very smart. He had a habit of talking too much when he was excited. They took a shuttle down to the surface. The air outside was thin but breathable. The sky was dark purple, and 2 distant suns hung low on the horizon. Danny led his team toward the structure. It was a temple. That was the only word Danny could think of to describe it. The walls were made of black stone, carved with symbols he did not recognize. The entrance was open, and darkness waited inside. They turned on their lights and walked in. The first thing Danny saw was the bodies. There were 7 of them, lying on the stone floor. They were not human. They were tall and thin, with silver skin and large eyes. Their faces looked peaceful, as if they had simply fallen asleep. But Danny knew they were dead. He heard a sound, a sob. It came from deeper inside the temple. Danny moved forward, his hand on his weapon. He turned a corner and found her. She was sitting against the wall, her knees pulled up to her chest. She was the same species as the others, silver skin, large eyes that caught the light from his flashlight. But she was alive. She looked up at him, and he saw that she had been crying. "You came," she said. Her voice was the same one from the transmission. "I did not think anyone would come." Danny kneeled down so he was at her level. He kept his voice soft and calm. "My name is Danny Cole. I'm from Earth. I'm here to help." "What's your name?" "Kirael," she said. "My name is Carousel." "Kirael, can you tell me what happened here?" She was quiet for a moment. Then she began to talk. Her people were called the Selvari. They had lived among the stars for thousands of years, longer than humans had even known about space travel. They were guardians of ancient secrets, keepers of knowledge that was too dangerous for others to know. The thing in this temple was one of those secrets. They called it the Void Heart. Kira explained that the Void Heart was not a weapon, though it could destroy like one. It was a door. Long ago, before her people even existed, another civilization had found a crack in reality itself. Things had come through that crack. Terrible things. The Ancient Ones had built the Void Heart to seal the crack forever. But the seal needed power. It needed life. Every 1,000 years, the Void Heart would awaken and demand a sacrifice. A living soul had to carry a special crystal into its core. The soul would be destroyed, but the seal would hold for another 1,000 years. This was the time. The Void Heart had awakened. Kira and her team had come to perform the ritual. But something had gone wrong. The artifact had released a wave of energy that killed everyone except her. Now she was alone, and the Void Heart was getting stronger. If it was not stopped, it would tear open the old wound in space. The things on the other side would come through. Entire star systems would be consumed. And you? Danny asked. What are you going to do? Kira looked at him with those silver eyes. There was no fear in them, only acceptance. I'm going to finish what we started, she said. I will carry the crystal into the core. I will give my life to save everyone else. That is my duty. Danny felt something cold settle in his chest. He had seen soldiers ready to die for their missions. He had seen brave people make hard choices. But there was something about the way Kara spoke that bothered him. She was not afraid because she had already given up. She saw her death as the only possible ending. When? He asked. At dawn, she said. When the twin suns rise. That is when the Void Heart will be at its weakest. That is when I must act. Danny looked back at his team. Larva was examining the symbols on the walls. Kevin was scanning the dead bodies with his equipment, his face troubled. They had come here to help. But what kind of help could they offer against something like this? Danny turned back to Kara. She was watching him with a strange expression, as if she was trying to understand something. You are different, she said. The other species we have met, they would have left by now. They would not want to be near the Void Heart when it awakens fully. But you are still here. Danny smiled a little. It was not a happy smile. We're human, he said. We don't run away from problems. We fix them. Kira shook her head slowly. This problem cannot be fixed. It can only be paid for. With blood. With sacrifice. That is the way it has always been. Danny stood up. He held out his hand to her. Maybe, he said. But I'd like to take a look at this Void Heart before you do anything permanent. Where I come from, we have a saying. There's always another way. Kira stared at his hand. She did not understand the gesture. But after a moment, she reached up and took it. Danny helped her to her feet. You are a strange creature, Danny Cole, she said. You have no idea, he replied. Now show me this artifact. Let's see what we're dealing with. Together, they walked deeper into the temple, toward the heart of the darkness and whatever waited there. The Void Heart was beautiful. That was the first thing Danny noticed. It hung in the center of a massive chamber, floating above a pit of pure darkness. It looked like a crystal made of frozen night, black but somehow glowing at the same time. Purple light pulsed inside it like a heartbeat. The chamber was cold. Danny could see his breath in the air. The walls were covered with the same strange symbols they had seen throughout the temple. But here, the symbols were glowing. They were part of the machine, part of the ancient system that kept the seal in place. This is it, Kira said. Her voice echoed in the vast space. The Void Heart. My people have guarded it for 3,000 years. Laura walked around the chamber, her eyes moving over everything. She was already taking readings with her equipment, her mind working on the problem. "The energy output is incredible," she said. "This thing is pulling power from somewhere. I can't tell where." Kevin was examining the symbols on the walls. He traced them with his finger, careful not to touch them directly. "These aren't just decorations," he said. "They're instructions. A manual of some kind. The civilization that built this wanted someone to understand how it worked." "We understand how it works," Kirahel said. There was a note of frustration in her voice. "The void heart seals the breach. The breach wants to open. To keep it closed, the heart must be fed. Energy, life, a soul." She held up a small object. It was a crystal about the size of her fist, glowing with soft blue light. "This is the key," she said. "When I carry it into the heart, my life force will transfer into the artifact. The seal will hold. The breach will remain closed. My people will be safe. Your people will be safe. Everyone will be safe." Danny looked at the crystal, then at Kirahel. Her face was calm. "Too calm, and you'll be dead," he said. "Yes." She said it like it was nothing, like she was talking about the weather. Danny felt anger rise in his chest. Not at Kirahel. She was doing what she thought was right. He was angry at the situation, at the idea that death was the only answer. "How long do we have?" he asked. "Until dawn," Kirahel said. "Perhaps 10 hours. After that, the void heart will reach full power. The breach will begin to open. Once that happens, nothing can stop it. 10 hours. Danny looked at Laura and Kevin. They looked back at him. He could see the same thought in their eyes that was in his mind. 10 hours was a long time for humans. "Kirahel," Danny said, "I want you to tell me everything you know about this artifact. Everything your people have learned in 3,000 years. Can you do that?" Kirahel frowned. "Why?" "The knowledge will not help you. The science is absolute. The only way to feed the heart is with a living soul." "Your science," Danny said. "Not ours. Maybe we'll see something you missed." "We have not missed anything. We have studied the void heart for generations. The greatest minds of my people have examined every possibility. There is no other way." Danny smiled. It was a stubborn smile, the kind he got when someone told him something was impossible. "Humor me," he said. "What's the worst that could happen? We waste a few hours and you still sacrifice yourself at dawn. But what if we find something? What if there's a chance, even a small one, that you don't have to die?" Kirahel stared at him. She did not understand this human. His people had only been in space for a few hundred years. They were children compared to the Selvari. What could they possibly see that her people had not? But there was something in his eyes, something she had not seen before. It was not hope, exactly. It was stronger than that. It was certainty. He truly believed he could find another way. Against her better judgment, Kirahel began to talk. She told them everything. She explained how the void heart worked, how it drew energy from the boundary between dimensions. She described the breach, the tear in reality that led to a place of endless darkness and hunger. She explained the mathematics of the seal, the equations that govern the transfer of life force into the artifact. Danny listened carefully. So did Laura and Kevin. They asked questions. Many questions. Some of the questions seemed foolish to Kirahel. Some seemed obvious. But the humans did not care if they looked foolish. They only cared about understanding. Hours passed. The twin suns outside moved across the sky. Inside the temple, the humans worked. Lavra had set up a small workstation near the edge of the chamber. She was running calculations on her datapad, checking the energy readings again and again. "The power drain is constant," she said. The heart is pulling a specific amount of energy every second. It's not random. It's like a machine running on a schedule. Because it is a machine, Kevin said. He was still studying the symbols on the wall. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but his voice was excited. That's what I've been trying to figure out. The civilization that built this, they weren't mystics. They were engineers. This whole thing is technology, not magic. Advanced technology, but still technology. Kira L. shook her head. What difference does that make? Technology or magic, the result is the same. The heart needs life force. Nothing else will work. But why? Danny asked. He was pacing back and forth, thinking out loud. Why life force specifically? What makes a living soul different from any other form of energy? Because life force is unique, Kira Hal said. It is the spark that separates living things from dead matter. It cannot be created or copied. It can only be given. Tevin looked up from his work. His eyes were bright. That's not entirely true, he said. I mean, yes, life is unique. But energy is energy. The first law of thermodynamics says energy cannot be created or destroyed, only changed from one form to another. If this artifact needs energy to function, there might be other ways to provide it. You do not understand, Kira L. said. Her voice was getting sharper. The void heart does not simply need energy. It needs life. It needs the essence of a living being. That is what the ancient ones designed it to consume. Maybe that's what they designed it for, Larva said slowly. But designs can be changed. Systems can be modified. What if we could trick the heart into accepting a different power source? Kira Al opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. She had never thought about it that way. Her people had always accepted the void heart as it was. They had never tried to change it. The idea seemed wrong, like trying to change the laws of physics. But the humans did not see it that way. To them, everything was a puzzle. Every problem had a solution. Every lock had a key. Danny stopped pacing. He looked at Kira L. with an expression she could not read. Kira L., when was the last time your people actually examined the void heart? I mean, really examined it, with fresh eyes looking for alternatives? Kira L. thought about this. The answer was uncomfortable. Never, she admitted. The ritual has always worked. Why would we look for alternatives? Because the ritual kills people, Danny said. His voice was gentle but firm. Every 1,000 years, someone dies. That's 3 deaths since your people took over guardianship. 3 people who might not have had to die if someone had just asked the question, is there another way? The words hit Kira L. like a physical blow. She had never thought of it like that. The sacrifice was an honor. It was a duty. It was noble, but it was also death. And death was final. She looked at the void heart, pulsing with its cold light. She thought about the crystal in her hand. She thought about walking into that darkness and never coming out. For the first time since her team had died, Kira Al felt something stir in her chest. It was small and fragile, like a flame in a strong wind. But it was there. Hope. She looked at Danny. You truly believe you can find another way? I don't know, Danny said honestly. But I'm going to try. And if we fail, you can still do what you planned. But at least we'll know we tried everything. Kira Hal was silent for a long moment. Outside, the first sun was beginning to set. They had maybe 6 hours left. Very well, she said. What do you need me to do? Danny smiled. It was a real smile this time, warm and full of determination. Help us save your life. The work began in earnest. And somewhere in the darkness of the void heart, something old and hungry watched and waited. The second sun had set, and the moon was dark except for the glow coming from inside the temple. The void heart pulsed faster now, its light growing stronger. They had 4 hours left. Kevin had not slept in almost 20 hours. His eyes were red, his hair was messy, and he had drunk so much coffee that his hands were shaking. But his mind had never been clearer. He stood in front of the wall of symbols, staring at them like they held the secrets of the universe. Because they did. He was certain of it now. "I've got it," he said suddenly. His voice cracked from exhaustion. "I finally got it." Danny and Laura looked up from their work. Kira Hal moved closer, her silver eyes reflecting the glow of Kevin's datapad. "What did you find?" Danny asked. Kevin turned to face them. There was excitement in his face, the kind that came from solving a puzzle that everyone said could not be solved. "The Void Heart isn't what we thought it was," he said. "It's not a machine designed to consume souls. It's a lock." "A lock?" Kira Hal frowned. "What do you mean?" Kevin pointed at the symbols on the wall. "These aren't just instructions. They're a history. The civilization that built this, they called themselves the Architects. They lived millions of years ago, long before your people or mine existed. They were powerful, but they made a mistake. They opened a door to another dimension, and something came through." "The breach," Kira L. said. "Yes, we know this part of the story. But you don't know all of it," Kevin said. "The breach wasn't natural. It was created. The Architects were experimenting with dimensional travel, and they tore a hole in reality. The things on the other side, they call them the Hollow. They tried to come through. The Architects fought them back, but they couldn't close the hole completely. So they built the Void Heart as a seal." "This is not new information," Kira L. said. "We have known this for centuries. But here's what you didn't know," Kevin said. He pulled up an image on his datapad, showing a complex diagram he had translated from the symbols. "The seal doesn't need life force to work. Life force is just one type of energy that can power it. The Architects designed it that way on purpose." Everyone was silent. Danny leaned forward. "Explain," he said. Kevin took a deep breath. "The Architects knew they were dying. Their civilization was falling apart after the war with the Hollow. They knew other species would eventually find the Void Heart, and they couldn't be sure those species would understand the technology. So they designed the simplest possible interface. A sacrifice. One life to power the seal for 1,000 years. But," Laura said slowly, "if life force is just one type of energy that works, then other types of energy might work too," Kevin finished. "The Architects wanted the seal to last forever. They built in redundancies, backup systems. The sacrifice was meant to be a last resort, not the only option." Kira Hal shook her head. "No, that cannot be right. My people have studied the Void Heart for 3,000 years. We would have found this, would you?" Danny asked. "Kevin, show her the part about the sacrifice." Kevin scrolled through his translations until he found the right passage. "Here, this is what the Architects wrote about the ritual. When all else fails, when no other power can be found, the lock may be sustained by the gift of life. This is the final measure. Let it never be needed." Kira Hal read the words. Then she read them again. "The final measure," she whispered. "Not the only measure. The final one. Your people found the Void Heart and saw the sacrifice ritual," Danny said. "They assumed that was the only way because it was the most obvious way. But the Architects never intended for anyone to die. They hoped future civilizations would find a better solution." Kira felt something break inside her. 3,000 years. 3 deaths. Her friends lying dead on the floor of this temple. All because her people had never questioned the assumption that sacrifice was necessary. "We could have saved them," she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. "All this time, we could have saved them." Lava reached out and touched her arm. "You didn't know. No one knew. But now we have a chance to change things." Danny looked at Kevin. What kind of energy would work? What do we need to do? Kevin pulled up another diagram. The seal needs a constant supply of power. The life force from a sacrifice provides that power for about 1,000 years. But if we could create a self-sustaining power source, something that generates energy continuously, the seal would hold forever. Forever? Kirahel looked up. No more sacrifices ever? Never again, Kevin said. If we do this right, no one will ever have to die for the Void Heart. Laura was already thinking. Danny could see the gears turning in her head, the way they always did when she was faced with an engineering problem. A self-sustaining power source, she said. That's not impossible. Our ship has a backup fusion core. It's designed to run for hundreds of years without maintenance. If we could connect it to the Void Heart's energy matrix, it could work, Kevin said. The power output would be more than enough. The question is whether the Void Heart will accept artificial energy instead of life force. There's one way to find out, Danny said. How long would it take to set this up? Lavra calculated quickly. 3 hours to disconnect the fusion core from the ship and bring it down here. Another hour to integrate it with the artifact systems. Assuming nothing goes wrong. We have 4 hours, Danny said. It'll be tight, but we can do it. Kirahel stood up. Her face had changed. The resignation was gone, replaced by something new. Determination. I want to help, she said. Tell me what to do. Danny smiled. You know this temple better than we do. We need to find the access point to the Void Heart's energy matrix. Kevin's translated the basic layout, but we could use a guide. I can do that. Kirahel looked at the Void Heart, pulsing in the center of the chamber. For the first time, she did not see it as her death. She saw it as a problem to be solved. Before we start, she said, I need to understand something. What? Danny asked. Why are you doing this? You could have left when you heard my transmission. You could have left when you saw the Void Heart. You owe me nothing. My people are strangers to you. Why are you risking your lives to save mine? Danny thought about the question. It was a fair one. Because you needed help, he said simply. And because where I come from, we don't accept no-win situations. We don't believe in problems that can't be solved. And we definitely don't believe that anyone should have to die when there might be another way. But what if we fail? Kirahel asked. What if your plan does not work and the breach opens? You will die along with me. Then at least we'll know we tried, Danny said. That's what being human means. We don't give up. We don't accept defeat. We fight until the very end, and sometimes, just sometimes, we win battles that everyone thought were impossible. Kirahel studied his face. She saw no fear there. No doubt. Just absolute conviction that they could do this. You are a remarkable species, she said. Foolish, perhaps, but remarkable. Danny grinned. We prefer the term optimistically stubborn. Now let's get to work. We have a seal to save and a future to build. The team split up. Lavra headed back to the ship to begin disconnecting the fusion core. Kevin continued translating the architect's instructions, looking for any details that might help with the integration. Danny and Kirahel went deeper into the temple, searching for the access point they needed. As they walked through the ancient corridors, Kirahel found herself seeing everything differently. The symbols on the walls were not death sentences. They were instructions. The Void Heart was not an executioner. It was a machine that needed power, nothing more. For 3,000 years, her people had been wrong. The thought should have made her angry. Instead, it made her hopeful. If they were wrong about this, what else might they be wrong about? What other impossible problems might have solutions? She looked at Danny, walking beside her with his flashlight cutting through the darkness. This strange human who refused to accept that she had to die, who looked at ancient alien technology and saw a puzzle instead of a curse. Maybe, she thought, her people could learn something from humans after all. Maybe there really was always another way. The twin suns rose over the gray moon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Kirahel stood at the entrance of the temple, watching the light spread across the barren landscape. It was the dawn she had expected to die at. Instead, she was alive. Behind her, the void heart hummed quietly in its chamber. The fusion core fed it a constant stream of energy, more stable than any sacrifice could ever provide. The seal was stronger now than it had been in millions of years. The breach was closed. The hollow were trapped on the other side, where they would remain forever. Danny walked up beside her. He looked tired. They all looked tired. The battle had taken something out of them, and the sleepless night had taken more. But there was satisfaction in his eyes. "Beautiful sunrise," he said. "Yes," Kirahel agreed. "I never thought I would see it." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the light grow. "What happens now?" Danny asked. Kirahel considered the question. It was strange. For her entire adult life, she had known exactly what her future held. Training, duty, and eventually sacrifice. Now all of that was gone. The path she had walked had ended, and before her stretched an unknown road. "I must contact my people," she said. "They need to know what has happened here. They need to know that the age of sacrifice is over." "How do you think they'll react?" Kirahel laughed softly. It was not a happy laugh. "Some will not believe it. The sacrifice has been part of our culture for 3,000 years. It is woven into our religion, our history, our understanding of the universe. To learn that it was never necessary will be difficult for many to accept. But the evidence is right here," Danny said. "The seal is working. The fusion core is providing power. Your people can come and see for themselves. They will. And eventually, they will accept the truth. But it will take time. Change always does." Danny nodded. He understood. Humans had their own history of clinging to beliefs long after they had been proven wrong. It was not a failing unique to the Selvari. "What about you?" he asked. "What will you do?" Kirahel turned to look at him. In the golden light of dawn, her silver skin seemed to glow. "I do not know," she admitted. "I spent my whole life preparing for a death that will never come. I have no plan for what comes after." "That's okay," Danny said. "Most people don't. You figure it out as you go. Make it up as you need to. Is that how humans do it?" "Pretty much. We're really good at improvising." Kirahel smiled. It was a small smile, uncertain and new, but real. "Perhaps I could learn more about your people," she said. "You have shown me that there are ways of thinking I never imagined. Ways of approaching problems that my people never considered. I would like to understand how you see the universe." Danny grinned. "Are you asking to come with us? Would you allow it?" "I'd be honored. We can always use someone who's good in a fight. And someone who knows things about the galaxy that we don't." Kira looked back at the temple. Inside, the bodies of her fallen comrades still lay on the stone floor. She had not forgotten them. She would never forget them. "I would like to bury my team first," she said. "They deserve proper rites. They died believing they were saving the universe. In a way, they were. Their deaths brought us here. Their sacrifice led to this moment." "Take all the time you need," Danny said. "We'll help." The burial took most of the morning. They carried the 7 bodies outside and laid them on the rocky ground. Kirahel spoke words in her own language, a prayer for the dead, a promise that they would be remembered. Then they placed stones over the graves, marking the spot where heroes had fallen. When it was done, Kirahel stood before the graves one last time. My friends, she said, you came here ready to die for duty. And die you did. But your death was not in vain. Because of you, I met these humans. Because of you, we found a better way. The sacrifice ends with you. No one will ever walk into the void heart again. You are the last. Rest now. Your watch is over. She bowed her head. Danny, Laura, and Kevin stood behind her, silent and respectful. After a long moment, Kira L. turned away from the graves. Her eyes were dry. She had no more tears left. It is time to go, she said. They walked back to the shuttle and flew up to the horizon. The ship was waiting in orbit, a small vessel against the vast backdrop of space. But to Kira L., it looked like hope, like possibility, like the beginning of something new. Laura went to engineering to check on the ship's systems. Kevin went to his quarters to sleep, mumbling about the longest day of his life. Danny led Kira L. to the observation deck, a large room with windows that looked out at the stars. Welcome aboard, he said. Kira L. walked to the window and pressed her hand against the glass. The stars were beautiful. She had seen them countless times before, but now they looked different. They were not just points of light in the darkness. They were destinations, futures, possibilities. I have a question, she said without turning around. Ask, the way you think. The way all humans think. This refusal to accept impossible situations. This belief that every problem has a solution. Where does it come from? Danny considered this. He walked over to stand beside her, looking out at the same stars. I think it comes from our history, he said. Humans haven't always had it easy. Our planet tried to kill us with ice ages and plagues and natural disasters. We fought wars with each other for thousands of years. We polluted our own home and nearly destroyed ourselves more times than I can count. That sounds terrible, Kireo said. How did you survive? By being too stubborn to quit. Every time something knocked us down, we got back up. Every time someone said something was impossible, someone else proved them wrong. We learned, over thousands of years, that giving up is the only true way to lose. As long as you're still fighting, you still have a chance. Kira Al absorbed this. It was so different from the Silvari way. Her people valued acceptance, harmony with the natural order, knowing your place in the universe and fulfilling your role without complaint. But maybe there was another way to live. Maybe fighting against fate was not arrogance. Maybe it was just another kind of courage. I think I understand, she said. You are a people who refuse to accept limits. You look at the universe and see not what is, but what could be. Something like that, Danny said. We're not always right. Sometimes we fail. Sometimes the impossible really is impossible. But we'd rather try and fail than give up without trying. Kira Hell nodded slowly. It is a good way to live. It has its moments. The ship began to move, pulling away from the gray moon and turning toward distant stars. Kira Hell watched the temple shrink below them, the place where she had expected to die, the place where she had found new life instead. Where are we going? She asked. Wherever we want, Danny said. That's the beauty of exploration. We're out here to find new things, meet new people, learn new ideas. There's a whole galaxy waiting for us. A whole galaxy, Kira L. repeated. The words tasted strange, but good. Danny turned to her with a smile. Ready for an adventure? Kira L. thought about everything she had lost. Her friends, her certainty, her entire understanding of the world. But she also thought about what she had gained. A new perspective, new allies, a future she had never dared to imagine. Yes, she said. I believe I am. The horizon jumped to faster than light speed. The stars became lines of light, stretching into infinity. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, Two people from different worlds looked out at the unknown together. Behind them, on a small gray moon in the Vega system, the Void Heart continued its quiet vigil. The fusion core hummed with endless energy. The seal held strong. And for the first time in millions of years, the universe was a little bit safer, all because one alien girl had been ready to sacrifice herself, and one human had refused to let her. Sometimes, that was all it took. One person who looked at the impossible and said, "There has to be another way," and then went out and found it. That was the human way. And maybe, just maybe, it could be the galaxy's way too. The story was not over. It was just beginning. But that is a tale for another time. 2 hours before dawn, Lavra arrived with the fusion core. It was a massive cylinder, about the size of a person, glowing with blue light from the plasma contained inside. She had loaded it onto a cargo lifter, and it floated behind her as she entered the main chamber. Her face was covered in sweat and grease, but she was smiling. One portable sun. "Ready for delivery?" she said. Danny helped her guide the lifter into position near the Void Heart. The artifact pulsed faster as they approached, as if it could sense the energy nearby. The temperature in the chamber dropped several degrees. Kevin rushed over with his datapad. "I've finished mapping the energy matrix. There's an access port on the lower level, directly beneath the heart. That's where the original architects connected their power source." "What happened to their power source?" Danny asked. "It failed," Kevin said. "Millions of years of wear and tear. That's why the sacrifice system exists. It was supposed to be temporary, just until they could build a new power source. But the architects died out before they could finish. So we're completing their work," Lavra said. "Millions of years late, but better late than never." Kirahel led them to a staircase that spiraled down into darkness. The stone steps were worn smooth from age, and the air grew colder with each level they descended. The symbols on the walls glowed brighter here, reacting to their presence. Finally, they reached the bottom. They stood in the small circular room directly beneath the Void Heart. Above them, visible through a hole in the ceiling, the artifact hung like a dark star. Its light was almost blinding now. "There," Kirel said, pointing to a circular platform in the center of the room. "That is the connection point. The architects would have placed their power source there." Lavra examined the platform. It was covered in symbols, but she could see the engineering beneath them. Contact points. Energy channels. A system designed to draw power and feed it upward into the heart. "I can work with this," she said. "But I'm going to need time. And I need everyone to stay back. If something goes wrong with the fusion core, the explosion could vaporize this entire temple." "We're not leaving you alone," Danny said. "I'm not asking you to. Just give me space to work. And maybe someone should keep watch. I have a bad feeling about this place." Kirahel understood what Lara meant. She could feel it too. A presence. Something watching them from the shadows. The Void Heart was not just a machine. It was connected to the breach, to the dimension on the other side. And the things on the other side did not want the seal to be strengthened. "I will guard the entrance," Kirahel said. She drew a weapon from her belt, a sleek energy pistol that hummed with power. Danny nodded. "Kevin, stay with Lara. Help her with the translations if she needs them." "What about you?" Kevin asked. "I'm going to explore. Something about this room feels wrong. I want to make sure we're not missing anything." Then he walked along the edges of the chamber, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. The walls here were different from the ones above. They were covered not with symbols, but with images. Pictures carved into the stone, telling a story. He saw the architects, tall beings with many arms. He saw them building great machines. He saw them opening a doorway to another place, a place of shadow and emptiness. He saw the things that came through. They had no real shape, just darkness that moved and consumed. The hollow, he saw the war. The architects fighting with weapons of light against enemies made of nothing. He saw them building the Void Heart, pouring their knowledge and power into one final creation. He saw the first sacrifice, an architect walking into the heart and disappearing. The last image showed the Void Heart glowing with stable light. The breach was sealed, but the architects were gone, their civilization reduced to ruins and memories. Danny touched the carving. These people had given everything to protect the universe from the darkness. They had died so that others might live, and their sacrifice had been honored for millions of years. But now, because of 4 humans and 1 Selvari, their final wish might finally be fulfilled. A permanent solution. No more deaths. A sound pulled Danny from his thoughts. It was wrong. Not a natural sound. A whisper in a language that hurt to hear. He turned around slowly. The shadows in the corner of the room were moving. Not from the flickering light. They were moving on their own, stretching and twisting into shapes that should not exist. And from within those shadows, eyes opened. Many eyes, red and hungry. "We have company," Danny shouted. Kira L spun around, her weapon raised. She saw the shadows, and her face went pale. "The hollow," she said. "They are coming through. The breach must be weakening faster than we thought." More shadows were forming now, pulling themselves out of the walls and floor. They had no bodies, just darkness with intent. They did not walk. They flowed, like water made of night. Laura looked up from her work. "I need more time. The core isn't connected yet." "How much more?" Danny demanded. 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Danny looked at the approaching shadows. There had to be a dozen of them now, and more were forming every second. "You'll have it," he said. He drew his weapon, a standard military sidearm. It felt small in his hand compared to the enemies they faced. "Kira Al, with me." They stood side by side as the hollow approached. Kira Al fired first, her energy weapon sending a bolt of bright blue light into the nearest shadow. The creature screamed, a sound like tearing metal, and dissolved into nothing. "They can be hurt," she shouted. "Good to know." Danny fired his own weapon. The bullet passed through the shadow without effect. He swore and looked at his gun. "Energy weapons only," Kira L said. "The hollow are beings of pure dimensional energy. Physical matter cannot touch them." Danny threw his useless weapon aside. "Great. Any spare energy weapons?" Kira L pulled a second pistol from her belt and tossed it to him. "My people always carry backup. Now fight." The battle was chaos. The hollow did not attack like soldiers. They attacked like a flood, surrounding their enemies and trying to consume them. Danny and Kiracel stood back to back, firing into the darkness, creating a circle of light around Laura and Kevin. Every time they destroyed one shadow, 2 more seemed to take its place. The whispers grew louder, filling Danny's head with words he could not understand, but somehow knew meant death, fear, the end of all things. He ignored them. He had a job to do. "How are we doing?" He shouted over his shoulder. Laura's voice was strained. "Connection is live. I'm starting the power transfer now." The void heart above them flickered. Its dark light began to change, mixing with the blue glow of the fusion core. The hollow screamed with one voice, a sound of pure rage and pain. They attacked with renewed fury. A shadow got past Danny's defenses and wrapped around his arm. The cold was indescribable, like being dipped in liquid nitrogen. He could feel it draining something from him. Not his blood. Something deeper. His life. Kira L fired without hesitation. The bolt hit the shadow, and it released Danny with another terrible scream. "Do not let them touch you," she said. "They feed on life force." That is how they consume entire worlds. Danny's arm was numb, but he could still fight. He raised his weapon and kept firing. The shadows were everywhere now. They filled the chamber, blotting out the light from above. Laura was screaming something about power levels. Kevin was helping her, his hands moving over the controls, even as he cast terrified glances at the battle around them. Danny felt himself weakening. The borrowed pistol was running out of power. The cold was seeping into his bones. They were going to lose. Then Kirahel did something unexpected. She stepped forward, away from their defensive circle, and raised her hand. The crystal she had shown them before, the one meant for her sacrifice, was glowing in her palm. "Get back," she shouted to Danny. She threw the crystal into the air and fired her weapon at it. The crystal shattered, and light exploded outward. Not the cold light of the void heart. This was warm, golden, alive. The hollow screamed and fell back. Wherever the light touched them, they burned and dissolved. In seconds, the chamber was clear. Kirahel collapsed to her knees, breathing hard. "That crystal," Danny said. "That was meant for your sacrifice. What did you do?" "The crystal contains concentrated life force," Kirahel said. "The force that was meant to power the seal. I released it all at once. It will not last long, but it will hold them back while Laura finishes her work. Won't the seal fail without it?" Kirahel smiled weakly. "Only if your plan does not work. I am betting my life on humans. Again." Danny pulled her to her feet. "Then let's make sure we don't let you down." Behind them, Laura shouted in triumph. "Connection complete. The fusion core is online. The void heart is accepting the power." Above them, the artifact began to change. The dark light faded, replaced by a steady golden glow. The whispers stopped. The cold retreated. The seal was holding. And no one had to die. Danny looked at Kirahel. She was staring at the void heart with tears streaming down her face. "It worked," she whispered. "By all the stars, it actually worked." Danny put his hand on her shoulder. "Come on, let's get out of here. I think we've earned a rest." Together, the four of them climbed the stairs out of the darkness and into the light of a new dawn.